Delighted to have you on board. We keep switching countries. It's very funny. So sometimes she's in London and sometimes I'm in Hungary and vice versa. And we were only speaking yesterday. And I'm thinking, isn't this bizarre that you're dialing me on a British number and I'm dialing you back on a Hungarian number? So delighted to have you here. Thank you very much indeed. What would be really useful is if you just give us a little bit of your background, because you have had experience in the US market and in the Hungarian market and the British market. It'd be beautiful just to have a quick introduction of your role and some of the things that you've been experiencing.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Nicolas, Susanna, for having me on board today. I'm really grateful to be part of this initiative, especially after learning how successful the first two rounds of these online meetings have been. Welcome, everyone. I'm Judit, Czako, Investment and Trade Commissioner in London at the Embassy of Hungary in London. As for my background, very briefly, before starting my diplomatic career, I used to work for the Hungarian Investment Promotion Agency, which is a governmental agency responsible for getting in foreign direct investments to the country for more than a decade. And in 2015, I started my first diplomatic role in New York at the Consulate General in New York. So I was pleased to learn that we are joined by a colleague of mine, actually, who is based in Los Angeles representing Canada. So I used to be in the same position based in New York representing Hungary and being responsible for investment and trade connections between the United States and Hungary. I spent there 6 fantastic years. It was wonderful to live in the US and learn about the business culture of the Americans, and of course did my best to bring in more and more US investors to Hungary. And since 2021, I'm based in London, actually the same position. It's only the country that I'm responsible for that shifted from the US to the United Kingdom. Here, I'm responsible mostly for Hungarian companies finding their ways on the UK market. So basically boosting Hungarian export, which is very important in such a small country as Hungary. But I'm also very much involved in the foreign direct investors, the UK investors that have already established their footprints in Hungary or that are planning to start new greenfield investments or further expand their presence in Hungary. I thought, Nicolas, if I have 2-3 more minutes, I thought about introducing the country as well. I'm not sure whether everyone is familiar.
I think that would be a lovely idea. But I also think what would be really helpful is to get an understanding of why. Not what, but why. Because you can clearly see that the Foreign Direct Investment Group of Hungary, and especially its relationships with China, is doing spectacularly well. Every week I see something on LinkedIn about another company coming and another company expanding, and the automotive industry, how strong it is in Hungary. And that, I think, would be really interesting to get your perspective on why Hungary is standing out, because sometimes it's seen as the black sheep of the family of Europe, and it's not necessarily the easiest place to be in. But I think it would be really understanding to why these large corporations that honestly have the choice of going anywhere choose Hungary. I think that would be really useful, Judith, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes, indeed, absolutely. But to put it in a better perspective, let me just say a couple of words, some data about the size of the country. Hungary is a relatively small country compared to the US or Canada or UK or China, just to come up with some that we have already mentioned. So it's in the heart of the Europe, in Central Eastern Europe, very favorable location, a country of a population of 9.6 million, so really small country in this way. However, so in the ranking of populations, Hungary ranks 95th among the countries. However, in the ranking of export capacity, it's ranking 34. So it's a really open economy. Export over GDP ratio is over 80%. Since it's a small market, we are really relying on our export and investment partners. Even if the country's size is small, we have seen fantastic investments recently, as Nicholas has mentioned. Basically, we have 2 record years in a row behind us in terms of foreign direct investment. And this is thanks to mainly Chinese investments. This is not coincidental at all, very much intentional, because a couple of years ago, the Hungarian government decided to keep and retain its main markets on the west part of the world, which are very important for us, European Union, especially Germany, but also the United Kingdom, the US as well. But we also had to find some new markets, some new possibilities. So we decided to open up to the East. East means mainly, but not solely, Asian countries. And I think these fantastic results in the foreign direct investments are thanks to this openness in which we were very vocal. And basically, just last year, Hungary was the top European destination for Chinese FDI. And this was not the first, but the second year. So not only 2024, but 2023 as well. 2023, we had the largest ever foreign direct investment coming from China. This is called CATL, the company. This is a battery manufacturer. I think they are the largest battery manufacturers in the world, and their footprint in Hungary is huge. The volume is more than 7 billion euros. And eventually, when the whole factory will be operational on the eastern part of Hungary, they will create approximately 9,000 new jobs. In Hungarian terms, this is a robust investment.
But I think there's a very interesting piece which underlines this. Obviously, there are tax benefits, there are government benefits. There's all sorts of reasons why a battery manufacturer from China or a Mercedes-Benz or a BMW can come to Hungary. But the recent one I saw was BYD, Build Your Dreams, which I think is a spectacular name for a car company. I just think it's lovely. But it's just moved its headquarters from the Netherlands to Hungary. It's not come from Shenzhen or anywhere else, it's come from the Netherlands to Hungary. So it means there's 2 competitive residents and a taxpayer in Hungary, which is quite nice to say, but it's very relevant to me that there are 2 underlying things that play into the advantage of Hungary. One is the simplicity of moving your business here. When I was at the European Bank, this was before the conglomerate of one trade organization, you literally had to deal with about 6 or 7 different organizations to get anything done, and it was hard. Now it's one organization, effectively, that wonderful American expression, you have one throat to choke to help you do all of this. And the other thing coming out of Apple's playbook, when they had a discussion at the annual general meeting a couple of weeks ago, it was said, are you in China because of low cost? And chief executive said, no, that was some time ago. We're in China because of the depth of resources. And when I look at the Hungarian playbook and staff and the quality and the multilingual nature of the country and the generation workforce that we've got there, I think it's a spectacular place. So I think congratulations to everybody that's made this happen. And I think you deserve everything that you've been getting in terms of foreign direct investments. Excellent.
Thank you so much for saying that, Nicola. So the country is really a stable and secure investment destination. The numbers just confirm this. So the present government put a lot of emphasis on creating a business-friendly environment, and I think it's very successful. I can come up with some numbers. Corporate tax is 9% flat. That's it. Yes, and you can even get some further reduction in corporate tax when you do a certain amount of investment. You can get some tax exemption, but also the social contribution that the employers pay are 13%. That's it. So it tends to be very, very simple, very understandable. And on top of these favorable taxes, a very easily available incentive package can also be available for new investments.
And how do you feel about, given that your role is to help Hungarian companies expand, migrate, grow into the UK and further afield, how do you think the UK stacks up in this AI emerging economy versus going further afield to where Michael is in Silicon Valley or anything else? Do you think that there is still that charm of the UK? Do you still think there's that bulldog spirit of being able to do something? And you've got a beautiful likeness that we're both fairly small countries in compared with some of our bigger neighbours. What attraction do you see of the UK for Hungarian companies?
There is definitely, I would say on a daily basis, there is at least one Hungarian company inquiring about how they could be successful on the UK market. And the goods and services they would offer are truly versatile. So it's high quality services, dog leash, food and beverage, everything is trying to get into the UK market. There's still a charm of the UK market, definitely. However, it's not an easy market, not only because of Brexit. It has made it a little bit more complicated, I would say, but I think it just because the competition is so big here, yeah. And the prices and the costs are so different compared to the ones in Hungary. Exporters and newcomers on the market, they must be really, really persistent, and they must have enough money and enough patience to start getting to be successful here. Yeah, I just want, if I may, you mentioned BYD earlier, Nicholas, and I wanted to add on something. BYD has been with us since 2017, started on the northwestern part of Hungary with the bus production. And just 2 years ago, they decided to set up their consumer car manufacturing on the southern part of Hungary, which is a big hit. I think that's their first production site in the European Union. And just 2 weeks ago, that's what you mentioned, they decided to relocate their HQ, European HQ and R&D center to Budapest with job creation of another 2,000 people, which is fantastic.
But out of that 2,000 people, over 300 of them are all in AI and robotics and drive shaft.
Exactly. High quality engineers. Yeah. That's exactly what Hungary is looking for now. There is a shift in our foreign direct investment policy, and we want to put more focus on quality rather than quantity. So we're looking for more complex, more high value added projects, maybe less job creation, which is fine, as unemployment rate is around 4%, which is pretty low. So definitely we are looking for more complex projects. That's what I'm working on right now here in the UK, trying to get into our scope some smaller but higher value added projects. And actually the sector doesn't matter. It can be medtech, it can be AI, it can be a green economy, it can be anything.
I think that brings us on beautifully. Thank you very much indeed, Judith.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate the insight into what's going on in the UK and the relationship between Hungary and the UK and what's going on in Hungary itself. Thank you very much indeed for your time, and hopefully we'll get some questions at the end